Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is John Sapari, and today I'm joined by Tim Diacono. And we also have a special guest at the end of the show, so make sure to stick on by. It's Joanna Delia, the Secretary-General of APAM, a new association for aesthetic physicians. And now to our 5 headlines for today. Malta's cabinet moves to regulate responsible cannabis use. Hazebut councillor says he was doing his civic duty after direct action to stop gardening demolition. Interpol informs Maria Efimova her DHL parcel of evidence was stolen in transit. Not a single patient in Malta was hospitalized with the flu from October to December last year. And Nikki Villadefremo warns MP gender quotas are humiliating and insulting to women. Tim?
Yes, so a breaking story this morning. The Prime Minister, Roberta Bella, has told Lovin Malta that he has presented a proposed white paper to Cabinet for discussion on the eventual regulation in some way or other of cannabis. Now, details are quite scant at this stage, but it's believed this white paper is believed to propose the elimination of arrests for people who are caught with a joint, which is extremely welcome news, obviously. Also, some laws regulating growing and other regulations as well. So this might even, spiral into a full-blown legalization attempt. Obviously, this was proposed by the party in government in its manifesto, so they're just doing what they promised. But it's still welcome news, especially when we heard stories like that outrageous one of the couple who was, who were arrested for smoking a joint on Valentine's Day in their hotel room.
Absolutely, much welcome news, and we'll see exactly where it leads to. Moving on to our second story, Hazebut councillor says he was doing civic duty after direct action to stop garden demolition. Independent councillor Steve Zamit Lupi says he was doing his civic duty when he physically went to the site where Infrastructure Malta were demolishing a garden for a widening project and sat on the rubble to make a somewhat sit-in protest against the project. He literally put his body on the line for the green spaces of Malta, and a lot of people rallied behind him, rallied behind his cause. Photos were uploaded online of Steve Zamit Lupi sitting there, and construction work obviously stopped as a result. Quite a symbolic gesture, this fight against the construction and infrastructure industry in Malta and taking away a lot of our green spaces. He says the council was never consulted or even informed about these works, and the residents didn't know either. I quote, any infrastructural work that goes beyond the current footprint of the road and pavement requires a permit, irrelevant whether it's public land or not. In this case, the authorities didn't feel they needed to consult with the local council, he said. He then went on to say it is his civic duty to speak up when things aren't done well. That's what everyone should do. So quite a rallying point, quite a symbolic gesture by Steve Zamit Lupi. I think the council weren't informed, but these plans were in place previously, correct, Tim?
Well, yeah, beyond the plans for the road widening itself, I think the issue over here is that this is an independent councillor, a very, very rare breed in Malta, where everything is completely dominated by the two major political parties. And this one young man, councillor, who was only elected 2 years ago, has now shown that you can really make a difference, even without the backing of political parties. And hopefully, this will send a strong message to other people who are interested in becoming councillors but who don't want to be associated with PNOPL. Moving on, Maria Efimova has shown an email by Interpol telling her that a parcel of alleged evidence that she had mailed them through DHL was stolen before it could arrive at the Interpol headquarters in Lyon. Now, the parcel is believed to have contained copies, not the originals, but copies of documents, which we don't yet know what they're related to, but they're believed to be in relation to Maria Efimova's attempts to rescue her husband or to free her husband of charges he faced by Cyprus over alleged misappropriation of funds from a Russian company. It's quite extraordinary, to be honest, that a package like this could have got robbed. But it's not just her saying it. There's literally an email from Interpol telling her that this parcel got robbed. The words they use are actually stolen. So
yeah, but despite all that, a lot of people did question the legitimacy of this and doubted her. Just to make it clear, we don't know whether these documents are exactly related to the e-grant. It's not believed to be, but obviously we haven't seen the documents and we don't know exactly what's going on. But it's a lot of people took to the comment section to really kind of question the legitimacy of all of this, despite the fact that there was evidence. Moving on to our third story, not a single patient in Malta was hospitalized with the flu from October to December last year. Quite an astonishing result when you take into consideration Malta was dealing with what a lot of people were saying was a twin-demic with COVID-19 and the flu. There was a lot of fear that cases would rise, deaths would increase because of them two colliding at the same time. But in fact, it appears that Malta's COVID-19 measures proved to be incredibly effective in the sense that not a single hospitalization of influenza was recorded between October and December last year. And when you compare that to 2019, during the corresponding period, where there were 19 flu cases, it's quite an astonishing feat. The flu season normally reaches its peak between December and January. In 2020, January 2020, there were 79 hospitalized flu cases, and in 2019, there were 148 hospitalized flu cases in January. This year, Superintendent of Public Health Shamin Gaushi indicated that we're doing much better than we did in previous years, which seemed to indicate that, really that these measures that are in place to prevent the COVID-19 pandemic have really kind of stomped out the flu pandemic as well. And to have 0 cases from 19 over the period of a year is quite an incredible feat.
Yeah, we usually hear about the cases that happen. We don't usually hear about the cases that don't happen. So yes, it's welcome news that for whatever reason the flu was basically eradicated, at least in the final quarter of last year. Moving on to our final story of the day, family lawyer Nikki Vella de Fromont has come out very strongly against a proposal that both major parties have agreed on to introduce a system of gender quotas to allow more women to enter parliament as of the next election. Now, Nikki Vella de Fromont is saying, there was a debate on Labour Fossil Jimma yesterday, and she said that these proposed quotas are nothing but an insult to women. They're humiliating. If I was a woman if I wanted to get into Parliament, I'd want to get there on my own steam and not be given a leg up by the system, through these quotas to make up the numbers. And besides, it's also anti-democratic. I think she has a very good point. The reality is that even though maybe the system does need a jump start, the problem with positive discrimination measures like this is that people will inadvertently look at the MPs who are elected by quota as MPs who are elected by quota, and they will somehow see them as being of a lesser, so to speak, brand of MPs. And the risk is that these MPs will end up also internalizing this belief themselves, and they will start seeing themselves as lesser, and that could be a pretty big blow to our attempts at equality.
Yeah, it essentially achieves the opposite of what this proposal is set out to achieve. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the episode. Don't forget, we do have a special interview coming up with Joanna Delia, the Secretary-General of APAM, a new association set up for aesthetic physicians. But before that, here's a quick recap video of Meet the Boss Season 1.
Make sure you're not the smartest person in the room.
Try to be a very good number 2. That is the worst advice I ever received in my life.
If possible, make sure you're the stupidest person in the room. If you're not, you're in the wrong room.
I don't really believe in difficult decisions.
You always have that gut feeling in everything you do.
From that, I decided I have to be the number 1 in my own journey. No one else is number 1.
A decision is a decision.
A lot of people place too much emphasis on luck. say more yeses, take more risks.
I let my gut be my compass, so to speak.
To invest more in relationships.
I think the biggest myth of business is that things are easy.
You have to fight back, you have to be aggressive in the same way,
Nothing is the end of the world except the end of the world.
You're the strengthened for it for your next challenge.
dominant in the same way, and level yourself to the same attitude.
Everybody else, I wanted to be some big sports hero, but that didn't happen, unfortunately.
You have to own up to that decision and you just execute.
Luck will always feature in everything in life.
Most likely, more is not the answer.
I wanted to become Malta's biggest businessman.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Which is bullshit, basically.
Apparti li segwi l-ħolm tiegħek, però flux ta' kollox hija li temmen fik innifsek.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is Joanna Delia, one of 6 doctors who recently founded the APAM, a new association for doctors practicing aesthetic medicine. Hi Joanna, thanks
Good morning.
for being with us today. So why did you set up APAM in the first place?
So APAM, the Aesthetic Physicians Association of Malta, is a professional association, a voluntary association, where, like as with other professional associations, a group of professionals in a specific sector or specialty in this case come together to provide a united front so that we can basically lobby for standards to be uptaken in lieu of perhaps, since it is quite a new specialty, lack of legislation and standardization on sort of government level, to protect patient safety and improve the patient experience, basically. So as there is a dentist association or an association of psychiatrists in Malta, there is also now one for aesthetic physicians who are, as you said, doctors who practice aesthetic medicine.
So when we talk about aesthetic medicine, what are we talking about exactly? Is it just plastic surgery or are there other forms of it?
No, in fact, it is described as the non-surgical part of cosmetic medicine. So cosmetic medicine has always existed, so whether it is improving the appearance of someone who was perhaps born with an issue, you know, with something as we call birthmark or other perhaps larger or bigger issue, because we completely believe that your well-being stems as well from confidence and your psychological well-being. So we are not talking about turning people into some fad idea of beauty. That is something else. That is something we can discuss at length. But the idea that you are confident with your appearance, which is very personal, and it could be perhaps fixing an issue, like old acne scars, just to give an example, which is a very common issue, to something a little bit more problematic, like post-trauma, post-accident, and so on. So cosmetic surgery, I think everybody can understand. Surgery is when somebody is lying on a table with some form of anesthetic, and we cut and fix. Aesthetic medicine is the non-surgical part of the cosmetic medical world. So it is things which are still invasive, meaning we pierce through the skin and we place implants. Nowadays we like to use resorbable implants, so not permanent ones, because we've understood that with the body, permanence is not a thing. We're in constant dynamic. So anything which is not cutting in is aesthetic medicine, and it has branched out to be a complete, a separate speciality.
In your statement, in your original statement, the APAM said that it's important to know that, as per the law, only licensed doctors can carry out aesthetic surgery. So, does this mean, though, that from your experience, you've witnessed several non-doctors carrying out this kind of treatment?
So when there are new technologies coming out in the world, this has happened in medicine from a very, very long time ago. Just to give you a small example, nowadays we expect an obstetrician to carry out a C-section, right? It's a very common thing. But technically, any doctor can carry it out. It is just that for the safety of the person, so that the procedure is done at its best, you would want somebody who is very, very well versed with it, has a lot of experience with it, has been trained in it. Now, with a lot of these new devices and things, as I said, implants, liquid implants, fillers, things which you place inside the body, the law regulates doctors. It does not regulate what other people do. So the EU, fortunately, has created standards which, as members of the CEN, as the European Standardization Board, or the EU, enforces each government to have a look at these standards, obliges really, and ideally implement them as a national standard. Now, the members of APAM, and we hope that our numbers will increase, right? We oblige ourselves that as a minimum we adhere to these standards. These are standards which have been complied over a number of years by a board composed of the highest sort of experts in the field. They are very comprehensive, and to answer your question, there are, I mean, through social media, you can see that there is things being advertised which are performed by persons not registered with the Medical Council. I am not an investigator, I am a practitioner, I am a doctor, so my job is not to go out there and investigate rogue or unlicensed practice.
But you've heard of them.
We've heard of them. Nowadays, I mean, unfortunately, you can find certain medical devices to buy online from, unregulated and unlicensed sources. And so that sort of perturbs us, because we know that if a person is not educated enough or is not aware that they are undergoing a procedure by somebody who is not licensed or trained to do it, using a device which is completely unacceptable, it is a matter of education and exposure to this education. And we would like that not to happen. We would not like persons to undergo anything which can cause them harm. And some harm can be lifelong.
So if I want to, to get some aesthetic surgery or aesthetic treatment carried out, what's the process?
Well, the process is nowadays we do everything online, you research. The truth is, in most practices, new clients come to a certain practitioner through word of mouth. This, with doctors, this is the way it has been for a very long time. So obviously ask around, ask referrals from people who have had a positive experience. Ideally check the background of the practitioner, make sure they are licensed. We have put these standards on a portal. They are very long, but it is interesting to read sometimes, because this is a commitment the patient takes for a very long time, and it is on your face, mostly. Of course, there are other things to be done. So it is in everybody's interest to make the right decision. As an association, as we said, we bind ourselves to, as a minimum, adhere by these standards. We would like to always improve, keep up to date, and make sure we give out the gold standard of every possible situation. Things change a lot. This is a very, very, very dynamic field. So research, make sure the person is licensed, ask around. Hopefully, we hope that there will be a registry of practitioners, as there is with all the other specialities. So there is a registry for obstetricians and gynecologists, for psychiatrists, etc. That would be fantastic. And we are lobbying with the Health Standards Authority and the Ministry to do that, slowly. And I suppose, as a patient, this is what we can help the patients with.
And how can people get in touch with APAM?
So we have a website. It's apam.care, apam.care, and on the website there is obviously a contact form and etc. We will try to answer everybody, obviously, as from our hearts, let's say.
Joanna Delia, thank you so much. That's all from us from today. Thanks for tuning in to Lovin Daily. Make sure to follow lovinmalta.com for everything that's going on in this country. Until we meet again, have a day full of lovin'.